Good afternoon. This is Jan Lucas with Homegrown Home Inspections. How are you doing today? So, with the current market and everything going on, I have some free time and I wanted to put out a couple things for home buyers to kind of understand. In the current market, we're starting to see a little bit slow down the market shift from a seller's market to a buyer's market. A couple things that I like to touch upon is that home inspections are kind of a buyer's tool in the sense that it's going to protect your investment, prevents unexpected costs, avoids pressures in a buyer's market. What I mean by that is you may feel pressured to act quickly, but doing your due diligence of having a home inspection performed ensures that you're not making a quick decision based on want and need and more on an informed decision. Perfect example is you move into a house, you're buying at the top of your budget, which is happening with a lot of people in the market right now. With the current market the way it is, it puts a little bit more power into the buyer's hands. Home inspectors, when we do a home inspection, we are to evaluate everything in the home within certain reasons. We have standards and practices, we have processes we have to follow, but we need to age and date your HVAC, your water heater, test your appliances, inspect your roof, look at your attic, look at your roof sheeting, test electrical outlets, windows, doors, exterior GFCIs, everything along that way. There are some costly ends to not having a home inspection done. Perfect example would be you move into a house or you're getting ready to buy a house, you waive the home inspection. Most people don't have a construction background, don't understand the way roofs age and the look. That could look absolutely perfect. Meanwhile, you move in, you're in there for 2 or 3 weeks, the roof's leaking. Well, you're trying to figure out why the roof's leaking. Well, besides the roof itself, you also have things as drain, waste, and vent pipe stacks. You have flues. You could not see part of the house where there could be some damage to the shingles, a leak around the base of the flashing of the chimney. There are lots of components that we look at as a company that the common person is not going to. Back during COVID, the market was so hot as a seller's market, the sellers pretty much had the power in their hands, meaning that, home buyers were waiving inspections. When they were waiving inspections, a lot of times, I had one client that hired us after the inspection period, and we found that they needed a roof, the air conditioner was shot, and they had polybutylene pipes, which are all not inexpensive repairs. They're very costly. One of the most important things I can talk about also is scheduling your inspections. Typically, depending on how your real estate agent works it, you're going to have anywhere between a 7 to 10 day due diligence period. That due diligence period is from the time you sign your contract to the time that you can ask for repairs or anything in that due diligence period. I always try to talk to clients, or when I speak to realtors, or I go to anywhere where I speak about this, the sooner the better. Let's say you sign a contract on Monday. That doesn't mean you're going to find a home inspector on Tuesday, but you need to start looking, and you need to start interviewing, and you need to start looking at reputation, how long they've been in business, type of equipment they use. Look at Google reviews. All these things are going to give you a very good insight. Also, call the inspector. I have a business phone. I'm more than welcome to speak with anybody. My website's very detailed. It talks about my values, my morals, my moral compass, what we like to do. My Google reviews talk about who I am, how I perform inspections. So it's kind of important. Some inspectors, like myself, I have an online scheduler. I find it very easy for home buyers and real estate agents or transaction coordinators to actually use an online scheduler tool that we have on our website to see our dates of availability and book an inspection. That way you can choose the date and the time. You can actually kind of plan ahead. It's kind of like a menu. The other thing I can talk about is, price Uh, Cost of an inspection should not be your deciding factor. And many different inspectors charge different prices. There's kind of an industry standard. There's kind of like variables that go into it. The inspectors that, I tend to have relationships with in the local area, you know, we all kind of price accordingly, based on square footage of the home, age of the home, crawl spaces, any type of ancillary services need to be added in, such as stucco inspections, HVAC, or not HVAC, pool inspections, anything along that lines. It's not one flat price. If somebody is giving you one flat price, you kind of want some assurances that they're actually going to spend the half hour to 45 minutes in your crawl space, spend the 45 minutes to an hour inspecting your pool, going to have the proper equipment to do a stucco inspection. There's thousands of dollars of equipment that's used to do a stucco inspection. With our crawl space inspections, we actually have specialized robots to inspect our crawl spaces if we cannot enter them ourselves. So realize that, there's a different glass slipper for every princess, as I say. But price should not be your deciding factor. You're spending, on average right now, the average home price is $500,000, $500,000. Average home inspection costs anywhere for 2,000 to 2,500 square feet, anywhere between $475 and $550. Let's take the mean average of that. Let's say $525. You're spending 0.1% of what it costs for your house. It's the best way I can describe it. It is kind of one of those things, stepping over a dollar to save a dime. What we provide is an informative inspection. What inspectors do is we're there as an advocate for the home buyer. We're there to help the home buyer understand what they are actually buying. A home could look absolutely beautiful on the outside. Absolutely beautiful. It could be built in let's say 83. Everything looks awesome. Air conditioning seems to be working. Roof looks really nice. It's 2-story. You walk up and be like, this is the house for me. Well, here's something to think about. In that date range that I just gave you, that's when polybutylene piping was being used throughout the United States. You probably don't know that, or most people don't know that. Most people don't understand that polybutylene piping can be an insurance obstacle when buying a home. Air conditioning works great, but they could have had somebody out there recently to charge the air conditioner, and the air conditioner is 20 years old. It's R22 refrigerant that is no longer being sold, and it has corrosion inside the coils. We could go in there and it seems to produce hot water. Well, the water is coming out at 120 degrees. We go out and inspect the water heater. The water heater's set to 150. There shouldn't be a 30-degree temperature drop from the water heater to actually the water source. And we typically go to the farthest hot water source available, which is typically the kitchen island or kitchen sink. Typically when plumbers run a house for plumbing, the bathrooms are typically the closest run or the shortest run from the hot water or the water heater, plumbing wise. So there are things that go into this job and into what we do with the knowledge that we have, the accreditations, the certifications, everything like that we do, that are going to give you clear and concise answers. The things that I just mentioned, when you start talking price, some of the home inspectors don't take into that account. Not bagging on them, it's just we do a ton of construction inspections, we do a ton of residential inspections. We've inspected homes that are over 150 years old to literally from the dirt all the way to final, built within the past 12 months. So there are things to go into account for that. Also, there's things to go into account in the sense that, was the house recently remodeled? Did they redo electrical? Great, you have a 3-pronged outlet, but the house was built in 1955. You have a 3-pronged outlet. Is that 3rd prong? Is there grounded? Do you know that? Do I know that? Well, I'll be able to figure it out, By looking at your electrical panel, looking at how your breakers are wired. Do you have a sub panel? Is it wired correctly? These are all things, these little things, and I can go on and on about them, are things that a home inspector is going to find and protect your investment. Not only just protect your investment, but life and safety issues, things that have been installed by a handyman, things that aren't installed correctly, safety issues. All those things are what goes into a home inspection. The things that, I can try to repetitively talk about are, how long is a piece of string, essentially? So when you're looking at price, realize, talk to your inspector, find out what they do, look at their background, look at their reviews. I myself am a certified master inspector. I am certified through InterNACHI. I have a state license number. Another thing to think about is South Carolina does not mandate insurance for home inspectors, but I carry insurance. The inspectors that I generally associate with in the local community, that if I'm busy, I will refer them out. If they're busy, they will refer me out. We carry, a minimum of at least $1 million. Myself, I carry $2 million, error and omissions and liability. I would definitely check to make sure that your home inspector is carrying that insurance. There are some things that are inspection agreements that kind of limit what we're liable for. Remember, it's a home inspection. I don't want to say this, but it is kind of true. We don't get paid to break things, but we get paid to identify broken things. And sometimes they point the finger at us. And when we're at the home inspecting, if it's broken and they got a piece of tape holding it on and we turn the handle of the sink and it comes off, that's being marked in the report. That doesn't fall in our liability. We're good. If there's a window 25 feet up in the air and we can't open it, we can't test it. Not our liability. You got to remember, a home inspection is a non-invasive visual examination of a home on the day of the inspection. So that means when we go to the home on that day, that is what we are evaluating, the conditions of the home on that day. There's a gigantic misnomer when people think they move in 6 months later, they find a problem, but we can go back and verify in the inspection report that that problem wasn't there when we were there. Realize a home inspection is a non-invasive visual examination of the home on the day of the inspection. During these home inspections, the defects that you find, that's what your realtor is for. Your realtor is there to help you negotiate repairs. Your realtor is there to be your advocate on that side of the transaction. We're there to be your advocate on investigating the home, using our professional experience, our knowledge of the industry, our knowledge of the homes built locally. That's what we do. Your real estate agent is the person advocating for you. The one thing I would say is negotiating repairs or finding anything that goes into a house that needs to be repaired. Ask for receipts, ask for quotes. If you want to get your own quotes on the repair, always get 3, top, middle, bottom. I'm one of these people that, if I'm going to get something fixed, I don't go with the cheapest, and I most of the times don't go with the one in the middle. I kind of look at the reputation, and I realize that quality costs money. If you're buying a home and you're waiving your inspection, understand the not liability, but what you're forfeiting. You're forfeiting the ability to negotiate repairs. If you move in and the water heater has standing water, or the water heater drain pan has water in it, it's not the seller's fault. They didn't have to tell you about it because 90% of the time they don't know. 10% of the time they do, but just as you don't go in your attic every time, most of the water heaters in this area are in the attic, and they're not going up there to check on it. And if they don't have an alarm on it or a shutoff switch, they aren't going to know. There's a drain pipe usually attached to that water heater pan that you would probably, if it was slowly leaking and that pan would fill up a little bit, it just drains out. So realize what you're forfeiting when you don't have an inspection falls onto you, the buyer. When you get a home inspection, don't panic. I'm a home inspector. I do a lot of work around my house. I can tell you with 100% certainty that there are things that are not necessarily right, and I know which ones they are, but there are things that I've done. It's not that they're out of code or anything like that. It's just things that are, best building practices. Understand the severity of the inspection. There's an inspection software equipment out there that we use and other companies use that actually kind of grade the severity by color and by language. Minor, moderate, serious. Ours is blue, orange, and red. I'm in the process of converting to a new inspection software that's a little bit more clear, that leaves a little bit more of my proprietary information for myself, which once I get into that, I can kind of explain later. So understand those, and then understand the differences in contracts from state to state. Some things in some contracts locally, some things are considered cosmetic and don't have to be repaired. Other things, different contracts, might be a negotiable item. Review your contingencies, review your inspection contingencies. It's kind of your safety net, allowing you to negotiate or walk away with your earnest money. Again, that's a conversation for your real estate agent that has nothing to do with me, but always have those clear conversations, because me as a home inspector, I am your advocate on things that are going on in the home. Your real estate agent is your advocate for anything transactionally. I do the inspection. I can answer questions about the inspection. If you need referrals, I can give you those. But as far as the transaction itself, that falls onto your real estate agent, not me as a home inspector. The other thing I can talk about is get expert opinions and cost estimations. So we're kind of industry experts when it comes down to home inspection. If I recommend a structural engineer, if I find something that's wrong with the foundation, I recommend a structural engineer. That's who you should be asking your realtor to have the seller provide, is a structural engineer. If I say the roof showing signs of delamination, we got problems here, that is, again, your realtor communicating to the seller that you'd like to have somebody come out and take a look at the roof. Those are the things, getting handymen to evaluate work, to repair work, is not necessarily always the easiest answer to everything. There are things handymen can do, but there are things in South Carolina that require pulling permits and inspections, such as roofs. I'd probably say 10% of the roofs installed here in Beaufort County, probably within the past 10 to 12 years, did not have a permit pulled. And you're supposed to pull a permit. We're not installed by a licensed roofing professional, which is required. Things along that lines. And again, obtain multiple quotes. Do your homework. So, documenting everything. Again, as we are going through the home inspection, we are documenting everything in a clear and concise home inspection report. Now, the way I do things in a home inspection is I believe in the CYA, and I'm pretty sure if you're an adult, you know what CYA means. But, I'm covering my best interests, essentially. And I'm documenting everything through the inspection report. What I mean by that is if I walk into your house and I take 500 pictures, I'd say 425 of them are going to your inspection report. Some people don't like it. Don't know what to say. It saved me and let me have some uncomfortable conversations with former clients. Perfect example, about 3 years ago, we had some microbursts and tornadoes happened out in Rincon. And when that happened, probably about 4 months before that, we inspected a house. I got a call from a former client, told me they had a roof leak, that I missed it during the inspection, and that they wanted me to pay for the repairs. I pulled up the report. Our reports are saved digitally digitally through our inspection software. Plus, I keep all the reports on a hard drive. I went through to that report, pulled all the roof pictures, pulled a copy of the report, printed the whole report, brought it with me, spent about 2 hours reviewing the report before I went to the property. Went out there, looked at the roof, looked around, looked at the inspection report, looked at the roof again, looked to the right of the house, looked at the inspection report, looked down and said, I don't know what you want me to do, but this is not a concern for me. The homeowner decided to flip out. I looked around and I also asked him, I said, were you guys affected by the microburst of the tornadoes that happened in the past 3 months? Yeah, but I can't control weather. What had happened is they had a tree to the right of their house. They had a microburst. 3 of the houses in the neighborhood were also getting roofs literally on the day I was there. And the tree to the right of the house came down onto the side of the house above the garage. And they thought that I should repair to the roof because the tree, which was 20 feet away from the house, fell on the house. Now, in that report, we can see the roof pictures. The tree branches are nowhere near the house, or else we would have called out tree limbs within 10 feet of the house. But also in that report, we can verify that that tree that damaged their house was in their neighbor's yard. So again, we take a lot of pictures. That's just an easy example I can pull up to make sure that we take care of it. We're going to walk your roof. We're going to drone your roof. We're going to walk your attic. We are going to take pictures of what the house looks like on the day of the inspection so that somebody can't say, I moved in, there's a hole in the wall. Meanwhile, the movers did it for the previous owners while they were moving out. So our reports tend to be very dense in pictures, but also very dense in information, an informative report, which is what you want, talking about average lifespans of equipment, the way a house sets on a lot, swale, drainage, everything like that. So one of the things I can tell you about is it's better to have too much information than not enough. Some inspectors will disagree with me, don't care. That's the way that I operate mine. Now, our report comes in 2 separate sections, a report and a summary. And almost 90% of all inspectors provide it in that fashion. We also provide a digital report, which you can click on the link and go through it on your phone or on your computer. The summary is what you and your real estate agent need to be going through. That is the summary of defects in the home. The summary of defects of the home are what you're going to look at graded wise. Remember I was talking about blue, orange, and red, minor, moderate, serious. Typically minor or blue stuff is kind of home maintenance items when you move in. That would be trimming trees away from your house. A little bit of paint touch up, things like that. Those are typically things that it's kind of hard to negotiate. But again, that's between you and your realtor. And you guys can build a list out of that summary. The full inspection report is 100% informative. It's going to have all your information there, model numbers, serial numbers of your HVAC, your air handler, your condenser, your water heater, so on and so forth. That is very important for you to keep a hold of. If you ever have an issue, you're not having to fumble around and try to figure out what the model number and serial number is. You can pull your inspection report open and have that ready to go for an HVAC person. One of the big things is if you do get a report that's scary, it's not the inspector's fault. You as the home buyer need to be ready, willing, and prepared to walk away if you are uncomfortable or if the seller's agent or the seller is unable to make the repairs or unwilling to do the repairs. I've had this conversation with realtors. Realtors like to blame home inspectors for some realtors, not all, very few, very small amount. Some realtors would like to point the finger of blame at the home inspector. All the home inspector is doing is pointing out what's wrong. Some of us are a little bit more diligent about our job, want to make sure you're buying the best home. I inspect a home as if I'm moving in, and if I make a mistake, I put my hand up and own it. Very few and far between when that happens. But if you get a report that is unfavorable for you, I tell you straight up, it's time, I would talk to your realtor, but it's a pretty serious defect and you need to hire the structural engineer or hire an electrician or, conversation with your realtor. I don't mind having a problem with. I don't mind having a problem with home buyers at all. But our job as home inspectors is not to be a deal killer. Our job as home inspectors are to be a consultant, to be somebody for working on behalf of the homeowner so they can make an informed decision about the purchase they're making. Give me a second. My notes are a little slow there. So this was pretty much to talk about a buyer's market. You're in a buyer's market. Don't let anybody fool you. Buyer's market is beneficial for you. A seller's market is beneficial for the sellers. This is a market where you have the power of negotiation. Homes are being pulled off of listings because they're not getting what they want. People are wanting to sell, but there is power in the buyer's hand. Home inspectors are not deal killers. Home inspectors are not the reason why home purchases fall through. Home inspectors are the reasons why people don't buy a house that falls apart. So, take that kernel and nugget of advice and remember, home inspectors are your friend. Not all home inspectors are exactly the same. And price of a home inspection should not be your deciding factor. Reputation, professionalism, experience, tools that they're using. We use a plethora of tools: FLIR thermography, drones. We have stucco inspection equipment. We have crawl space bots for crawl spaces we can't access physically. It's very important to understand what goes into a home inspection. Many people try to be a home inspector, but unfortunately, few are actually fulfilling the buyer's needs. It's not always about making you feel good about a house. It's about giving you all the information that you need. In closing, I do hope that every one of you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And as you're buying a home, if you need a home inspection, please feel free to give us a call. My information will be right down here. Again, there's lots of amazing home inspectors in the area. There are some that does happen sometimes, but don't let price be your deciding factor. Interview your home inspector. Do some research. Read their Google reviews. Read their website. Look at their certifications. My certifications are on the bottom of my website that shows everything that I've done a lot of training on. I'm also a certified master inspector. There's a few of us here in the Bluffton, Beaufort area and Hilton Head area. Oh, another thing to touch upon. There are inspectors that are inspecting here in Beaufort and Bluffton County that are from Georgia. There's a big difference. Georgia's the Wild West. They do not require a home inspector to have a license. They do not require insurance. Basically, if you take a third-party course and get their certification through a third-party course, they can inspect. South Carolina, we have to take the Contractor's Business Law exam and the South Carolina National Home Inspector exam. You have to pass those to be licensed. Now, us in South Carolina, we can go to Georgia and inspect, and that's kind of one of the things I touch on quite a bit over there when I do inspections in Georgia is you have somebody that's actually passed the National Home Inspector exam inspecting your home. But again, make sure they have a license number. By law, it has to be on their website. By law, it has to be on their business card. Make sure they have an RBI, Residential Builders Inspector's license number, to inspect. If they don't, then they are not licensed in the state of South Carolina. So my last little nugget of knowledge there. I hope you guys are having a great day. I look forward to speaking with any of you that might possibly need a home inspection. Please take this strictly as an informative video. Just wanted to put one out. Thank you guys. Have a great day.